Welcome, viewers. This is your Emory and Henry Reports sports interview. I'm Daron Vaught, and with me today is the starting quarterback for the Emory and Henry football team, Dustin Beck. Dustin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So this past weekend was homecoming. Disappointing loss to Randolph-Macon that puts you guys at 3-1 on the season. You had 3 rushing touchdowns yourself, though. How did you find those opportunities for yourself this past weekend?
Well, one of them was a busted play, the one in the fourth quarter. We just had a breakdown in some coverage. Blocking up front, we missed a man, and so we just got a busted play and took off. One of them was designed for Caleb, and they had the outside stack, so we gave the option just to take it up the middle, and both the 2 were sneaks, and then one of them was just a busted play. So
there you go. Now, this is your first year as the starter at Emory and Henry. It's kind of it's an interesting story. It's a very admirable story. I've heard from all around, talking to Coach Montgomery and such, that you were 4th on the depth chart just last season at the quarterback position. How did you was there anything in particular that inspired you to work hard and earn that starting spot, especially with a returning starter coming back in Drew Piscopo?
Just the off season. I stayed up here all summer, worked out all summer, watched a lot of film. Really, I guess everybody that was behind me was really my parents, my mom and my dad. They were the ones who, I've actually a couple of times thought about quitting, and they've actually told me to stick with it because this is what I came here to do, is play football, and I'm getting an opportunity to do that now and get education at the same time. So they were the ones who told me to stick with it. I stuck with it. I got my opportunity, and so far we've been successful this season.
It's good to hear. Good to hear. Now, I mentioned the tough loss with Randolph-Macon, and of course we were 3-0. We, as in Emory, I say we, being a student and a fan both. 3-0 going into the Randolph-Macon game last season, and lost that one as well. Do you guys in the locker room see a sort of a hump that you haven't quite been able to get over with coming into ODAC play?
Absolutely not. The Saturday, the defense had a hard time being able to counter what they had for them. They had a good game plan coming in. They had good defensive schemes. They did very well in the second half, being able to stop us for 2 3-and-outs back-to-back, which really put us in a hole, and then we never could recover from that. But we did just fine in the first half. We were able to move the ball. Going into halftime, we were up. I think where it was us as an offensive group. We came out flat in the second half, and that really hurt us there. The opening drive of the game, we fumbled the football. So they didn't stop us there either. We stopped ourselves, and we fumbled again in the first half as well. And that's uncharacteristic as things that we do. We've not turned it over but just a few times this season, which is pretty good for us. And so, I don't feel like there's a hump that we hadn't gotten over yet. It's just we lost a little bit of focus going into halftime in a big game in a close situation, and now it's just a situation where nobody's going to outwork our football team the rest of the season. We got 5 more games, we got 5 more wins, and then we're going to the playoffs.
That's good. Very optimistic. Very optimistic. I like to hear that. Speaking of Drew Piscopo, the returning starter from last year, has he kind of helped out from more of a mentor standpoint, seeing that he's been here before? Not necessarily, that just from a mentor standpoint, he was obviously 7-3 last year, so the experience alone has to count for something, right? Has he helped you along?
Definitely. He's probably been the biggest help that I've had. If we're dropping in a pass and I'm working half the side of the field, the back side I never see, and that's where Drew really comes in. Is Saturday on the sidelines, he was helping me. Every time I'd come over, he was telling me what they were doing backside for a pass coverage, or different blitzes that I wouldn't be able to see if handing the ball off or whatnot. And he's really helped a lot, and he's already given me some insight for this week for WNL, and he's been a big, tremendous help for me so far this season. And he's not took it selfishly that he's not the starter. He's really helped me a lot, and he's helped our other quarterbacks as well. And he's probably a better leader as a guy who does what he's supposed to do for that the coaches tell him, and he does a great job doing what he's supposed to do too.
Speaking of leaders, behind you, week in and week out, you've got All-American Caleb Jennings in the backfield. How big of a help is he just playing the quarterback position, no matter if it's your first year or not, just generally?
It's a great big help. He's a phenomenal athlete, the best athlete I've ever lined up and played beside, and he does a great job at what he does. And this week he had a hard time getting off the ball and getting rolling, and he was held to 40 yards rushing, season low. That's not going to happen again. And they countered their defensive scheme for him, so we came back with him at a different way. And and that makes life a little bit easier for me on some days. And some days they want to look at me and say, hey, we're going to stop the quarterback and we're going to see what the halfback can do. But he does a great job with what he does, and I mean, you saw last week his electrifying run he had. I mean, it's just stuff like that you can't stop, and it's just he's got a big heart and a great will, and his motor never stops.
Right. Did you see his run on ESPN? Did you see it?
I did. Yeah. I was a little bit upset that they had to knock on us as an entire team, and especially him being a small guy running away from everybody like a little kid.
Right.
But it's okay. He got on there. And he needs a lot more publicity for what he does.
Yeah, definitely. I saw it the next day actually on the same show. They brought it back. Mm-hmm. One of the hosts was like, "Well, now this is my section of the show, and I'm gonna insert this run from yesterday because she thought it was such a good run." Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really interesting just to see like they put numbers up next to each missed tackle. So and I think it totally amounted to like 6 or 7. So so I understand you're a Dallas Cowboys fan.
That is true.
That is true. My older brother is named Dallas for the Dallas Cowboys, so I sympathize with you there. With that being said, is Tony Romo sort of a figure that you like to think you shape your game around?
Some. I feel like sometimes I can feel myself out there, and I've heard a lot from different coaches and camps and stuff I've been to along the way. They say I have a quick release, and that's what I hear a lot from on TV about Tony Romo. Yeah. Is he has a very quick release. Really, I would rather be compared to Troy Aikman. He's a Hall of Famer, but the stuff that he's done, the ability that he has is I'm not nowhere in the same category as him. But I do pay attention to Romo a lot, and he's a great guy and he's a good leader, and he's taken more shots from more reporters on TV and just keeps bouncing right back, and that's a pretty good guy to follow.
Right. So are you into blondes as well? Is that?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Well, Dustin, it was great having you on. Dustin Beck again, everyone, starting quarterback for the Emory Henry Wasps football team.